Yeah, it is another episode of the Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. I don't know. Come out immediately and say the rumors are false. I am not extremely hungover. It's not my fault that New York bars don't close until 4 a.m. It's beyond
my set you up to fail.
Exactly. Too big to fail. Speaking of New York, the New Jersey Jets are flying into town. Sunday night football. Prime time yet again. I think we have one more primetime game this season. We got the Chargers on Thursday night. A bunch of primetime games for the Raiders this year. Jets -1, despite the fact they have the most inept offense, close to the most inept offense in football. They were 2.5-point favorites, and it's been betted down to -1. I think people are jumping on the Antonio Pierce wagon, Soto, and believing in the Raiders.
There's a lot of stuff that. Conflicting beliefs, right? There's Raider Nation who are like, yeah, look at these guys. They're back. They're playing with passion. They're playing with energy, right? And then there's the statistics that typically overwhelming majority of interim head coaches win their first game, and then they rarely win a game after that. We can cite some examples. There's Carolina, and there's us a couple of years ago, but
Jeff Saturday with the Indy against us.
No, but that's what us. We bucked that trend, and Carolina bucked that trend where they continue to win after the first game. But then more often than not, it's the Colts. More often than not, that's what happens. They play really well the first game, and then that's it. They don't do really well after that. I think that we're in a little different circumstance both times. The first time, it wasn't because of poor performance that our head coach left or departed.
Yeah.
And now I think it's just we were so grossly underperforming that just us getting back to our normal selves will give us a few wins at least.
So this is a unique timing for Antonio Pierce as interim head coach with the Raiders, because he became interim coach after the Raiders got their asses stomped in. And the bounce back was Antonio Pierce came against the Giants, right? One of the worst teams in football. So it's kind of like, it's like the Giants was Antonio Pierce's wedding night. Like, you're getting laid on your wedding night. And then the Jets is the honeymoon. It's like you're getting laid on your honeymoon. Two bad teams, two terrible offenses. Next week, it's the Dolphins. That's when you're married. That's when reality sets in. That's when you're clipping your toenails in bed. That's when you're arguing over who takes out the trash. If things can still go smooth then something's cooking, right? Like, if this team can do something against a good team in its current state, extremely talented, flawed, how much of it was just Josh McDaniels being just a poisonous ogre dragging this whole thing down, and how much of it was like, well, this team just doesn't have it? I think we'll find out an answer to the easy question Sunday night. If we get completely destroyed by the Jets, it's like, look, this team's totally awful. Antonio Pierce, fine as an interim, he'll take over for now, but we'll have to get a new head coach next season. If we beat them, we're like, okay, 2-0, feeling good, little momentum, something to build off of. Confidence is brewing, and then the Dolphins will be the test if what's happening is real or not. So this is a litmus test, but it's the easy one.
For sure. The Jets do provide some obstacles, right? It's not going to be an easy win, but it shouldn't be that difficult either. We're going to find out a lot about our team, because I don't know that we've faced a defense this good this season. Yep. So we're going to figure out, right away, hey, does Coach Bo, does he know what he's doing? Mm-hmm. Can he adjust to things? Can he recognize things? Can Farva clean up some of those protection mistakes he made? Against the Giants, because if he makes those protection mistakes against the Jets, he's getting drilled. So we're going to see a lot of stuff. We're going to see, can Farva get the ball out on time? Can he react to getting fooled pre-snap and make the right decision on the fly? Can he, is he going to be a check down Charlie like Bajent has been now, because they know how to defend him? He threw something like 20 something passes for like 116 yards, or completed 20 something passes for like 160 yards. You know, he was just check down, nothing over like 7 or 8 yards in the air. Yeah. So we're going to find out a lot. Defensively, I don't know that this is going to show a lot about our defense, because their offense is so poor now. If their offense just lights it up, you know, we're inconsistent, we're this, we're that. Okay, yeah, we already knew that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's more offensively and game planning wise, we're going to find out a lot in this game.
The 30 points we put on the Giants last week, again, awesome, great, not being a negative Nelly. But so much of that was their offense was so terrible. We were getting turnovers, great field position, things like that. Like, our defense really helped our offense. I think we can see kind of a similar thing this time around. Like, if the Raiders can put up, you know, 25, 30, 35 points against a fantastic Jets defense. Like, when the Jets played on Monday night, they got, how many points did they put up? Like 30 on, like, they got destroyed points wise, but it was like a pick six, turnovers, lost field position, things like that. So it's like, that's kind of what I'm looking at on this offense. Like, how are we getting our points is going to tell me a lot.
Yeah. So the Chargers were able to put so much pressure on the Jets defense, like a constant pressure. They finally just wore down towards the end. It was a closer game until probably the middle of the third quarter, when the Chargers started to pull away. Yeah. And it was, you know, the Jets getting thrown right back on the field on the defensive end, interceptions, fumbles, stuff like that. Your boy, the MILF hunter, Zach Wilson's got like 8 fumbles this year. Like, he's got some issues.
He's been sacked the second most in all of the NFL. I mean, if I'm Maxx Crosby, I'm just drooling.
We'll get into the matchups, but I don't know if Mekhi Becton coming back from injury is going to be a good thing for them. Sure. Honestly, because he's just not that good. So that's kind of what we saw like last season, and in parts this season, where last season where we blew a lot of leads, and this season where we just weren't able to get back into games because of our offense. Our offense wasn't really eating up clock, moving the ball, and the defense getting tired. And this could happen to any type of defense. We didn't have a great defense last year, and it happened to us. Jets, we saw it happen against the Chargers. They're a great defense, and if you get a great defense tired, you know, they're going to make mistakes, and you're going to be able to capitalize. So that's you know, a couple of things that we need to do in special teams and make sure that we sustain drives offensively. But it can happen. We can do it. I think we are capable of doing it offensively. It's all going to depend on the game plan and what we allow Farva to do, and how much responsibility and how he handles it.
So let's start with O'Connell then. He got his first start against the Chargers, one of the worst passing defenses in football. Struggled. Got the start last week against the Giants. Solid defense. Solid. Looked fantastic.
Middle of the pack. Yeah, they're all right.
Yeah, they're solid, you know. Generally, not usually what a fourth round rookie quarterback can find success against, but Farva did. And Bo did a really good job of keeping things in Farva's wheelhouse. Only really one deep pass. It was beautiful, that 50-yarder. Other than that, simple reads, get the ball out quick, because we know probably the biggest thing Farva's struggling with is the same thing all rookies struggle with, just the speed of the game, right? When we started against the Chargers, 2 of those fumbles was he was just holding the ball, 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000. He's just standing there with the ball, right? The speed of the game is hard for rookies. Really good game plan by Bo last week. Get the ball out, take what's there, move on. He had no touchdowns, but he was efficient. Did great. This time, you're going against one of the best defensive tackles in football, Quinn Williams, and one of the best defenses in football. I got to imagine if I'm the Jets, that's what I'm playing against. I'm playing against a game plan of get the ball out quick, get to your first read, maybe second read, get the ball out fast. I think that's what we're going to see out of the Jets. And I wonder how Bo's going to adjust and how Aiden's going to adjust.
So here's the issue that we're having with having that be the primary game plan. Don't forget the running game too. The running game with Josh Jacobs really helped out Farva too. So their defensive front, the Jets' defensive front is so good they don't need to blitz. The Giants, they were sending guys, right? They were showing blitz and they were sending blitz. Okay. The Jets' secondary is good enough to press and force Farva into bad, tight throws. The Giants' secondary was, what defenses normally do when they blitz. They double teamed Davante Adams, and they were a little bit, loose to not get beat deep by anything, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to keep everything in front of him. And to Farva's credit, he found the open man and was able to capitalize on it. I don't know he's going to have that open to throw against the Jets. They're going to put more pressure on him without blitzing, and they're going to put more pressure on the targets to get open because I think they're going to be a lot tighter. I'm not sure that we're going to see all the double teams on Davante Adams. I think they have a lot more confidence in Sauce Gardner to go. I mean, Sauce Gardner only plays on one side. He plays on the left side. So we can do a lot of things to free up Davante Adams. The issue is if you free up Davante Adams by moving him to the other side, they will double him on the other side. So that's taken away. And then you have Sauce Gardner taking away another guy from the other side. Where are you going to go with the ball? So it is going to prove to be a bit difficult, but that's what the coaches are paid for.
I think we're overselling the run game significance last week. It was just because it was Josh Jacobs' best game of the season. I mean, he was still like at 3.7 yards per carry, right? Like he got the 2 touchdowns. We're good. Got the goal line, right? We're, on the 2 yard line, he was able to punch it in. Awesome. That's what we need. But just because it was his best game, I want to go. It wasn't still a great game, right? Like the whole team was under 4 yards per carry. He was 3.7 yards per carry. We still haven't had a good run game, and that's still something that's going to be hampering. Like I don't want us to feel like, well, the run game's going now. It's like you see in like in boxing, some guy will get his ass kicked for like 7 rounds, and then the 8th round he fights a little better, but he still lost the round. And judges give him that round just because it looked better. You got your ass kicked less than normal. People think you won the round. Like our run game was not good last. It was still below average last week, but it was just better than we've been doing. So I don't want us to think like, all right, the run game's gone. We can lean on that. Like it might still not be there because we still haven't had it yet.
Well, I mean, it wasn't good as far as an average, but it was good enough. Yes. It wasn't a hindrance, is what I'm trying to say. It did what it needed to do, right? It slowed the game down. It allowed us to play a lot of play action. It allowed us to control down and distance. So
it fit into a bigger picture.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to run for 5 yards a carry to have a good running game. As long as it's consistent, right? You're not losing yards consistently on first down. You're able to pick up short yardage with your running game. You're able to punch the ball in the red zone. That's a good running game. It's a complement to your passing game. I would love for Josh to run, to be Breece Hall and have 5.2 yards per carry. I would love that. But as of right now, that's not who we have. Can he get there? Probably not this season, but in a specific game, sure he can. And I just want to make sure that we put that into context. Just because we weren't running for 5 yards a carry or even 4 yards a carry doesn't mean that the run game didn't help the offense.
It helped, but it can't be leaned on. It has to be a complementary. Like last year, we leaned on it, and it got us, places, like not anywhere special. We still sucked, but at least it was something we could lean on. This year, it's complementary, but that's the thing is like it'd be nice for us not to have to. We're gonna have to lean on Farva at some point tomorrow night. Like it's gonna be this defense is too good of the Jets for us not to be in. We're gonna have a couple 3rd and longs. We're going to be like inside our own 5 here and there. Like the defense is just too good. Like that's the reality of it. And so those are the tests that we're getting out of Aiden O'Connell because we got ahead so early last weekend. Bo was able to put Farva in a pretty protective shell and he didn't have to play outside himself. Got the ball out quick. Great. we're going to have to see him play outside himself a little against the Jets.
He's going to have to do more.
Mm.
That one throw to Trey Turner is going to have to be 3 or 4.
Mm.
He has to do that consistently. And he's going to have more of an intermediate game. A lot of his longer, like the longer pass to Hunter Renfrow was more of a catch and run than anything else. He's going to have to actually throw the ball into that, 12 to 15 to 18 yard range instead of just dink and dunk and then throw the ball deep once in a while. That just defense is too good. They're too disciplined. They're not going to allow you to just dink and dunk them. And if you do, they're going to run up and tackle. You're not going to get that run after catch against these guys.
Over under 36.5. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking
we
under.
Scored 30 points last week, and it was still the under.
Yeah, it
was 37 last week, and it was.
That just goes to show you how good the Jets defense is and how bad their offense is.
Yeah. What are you thinking? You going over or under?
I'm going under 36.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be an ugly game. The only way I can see us scoring more than that is if we actually get something from our return game, which we really haven't gotten anything from that. They have a lot of punt return this year. They're allowing pretty decent return yardage on average. So if Cole can keep doing his thing and pinning him back, and we can get something out of our return game, because we can't expect just like we can't expect from what they've shown us. We can't expect the Jets to continuously drive the ball a full field, right? From let's say within the 15-yard line. If we punt them back, we can't expect we don't expect them to be consistent in driving the ball, eating up a bunch of clock, scoring points. We can't expect for us to be able to do the same against this defense.
Yeah.
Especially with a rookie quarterback, especially with probably maybe 2 of our starting tackles out. So we have to be able to flip field with our special teams on both sides, punting and returning.
Protection is my number one concern on offense. Protecting Aiden O'Connell, like you mentioned, potentially too. Colton Miller hasn't practiced all week with a shoulder injury. He's doubtful. We'll get to the injury report here in a second. Pass protection has been a blessing for Aiden O'Connell. This line isn't great, but pass protection has been good. It's been good. No, that's not hyperbole. It's been a very good pass protection, and that's something that Farva hasn't had to worry about. He may not have that luxury this time. And the one thing I think that Jimmy G is way better than Aiden O'Connell is feeling the pocket, right? See where the pressure is, moving around a little bit. That's the one thing he's certainly better than. That's going to be, I think, the primary thing. Like Aiden is the number one thing I'm watching, and like microscopically, the number one thing is how is he going to handle pressure, right? Is he going to be the statue that we saw against the Chargers? Is he going to get the ball out? Is he going to feel the pressure move around a little bit, little pocket awareness? That's what we're going to have to see out of him.
We're going to have to see the Purdue Farva. We're going to have to see that guy. We saw glimpses of it against the Giants in respect to him commanding the line of scrimmage, protections, audibling, stuff like that, moving players around. He did that in college, so he knows what to do. Now we need to see the throws, the aggressiveness. If you're not aggressive against this offense, you're not going to be able to dink and dunk down the field against these guys. They're too good. You have to take the chances when they're there. Kind of like what we talked about earlier this season when we were kind of discussing what the right play was. A check down isn't always the right play. If the throw is there to have further down the field, that's the right play.
Yeah.
And that's what he needs to do. He needs to identify the right throw, the right play, and make it and execute it. If we don't do that, it's going to be really tough for us to score. If we're just going to dink and dunk, it's just not going to work that way. We have to be more aggressive, and we're going to see what Farva has, because in this game, more is going to be expected of him. He can't just sit there and rely on Josh Jacobs to run the ball and us to just sit there and be able to put up the points we need to put up with him throwing, sub 5-yard routes.
Moving on to the other side of the ball, Zach Wilson sucks. This offense sucks. Suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked. They're 16.5 points per game. It's 30th in the NFL. They're dead last on third down. I think really it comes down to stopping Breece Hall on first and second down and just putting the ball in Zach Wilson's hands in third and long. If you just consistently do that, they're not gonna put it more than 10 points.
The issue that we're running into, Breece Hall is special. Teams know that Zach Wilson sucks. Teams know that they can't pass protect, and he still gets 5.2 yards per carry. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Not only are the Jets dead last in third down conversion, they're also dead last in red zone percentage. So when they get to the red zone, they kick field goals more often than not. Their leading receiver, Garrett Wilson, I think he's got 46 receptions on 81 targets. That's 44%. Or no, whatever it is, it's 44%. Mathing. It's bad. So his
their leading receiver.
That's their leading receiver, and by a lot too. I don't think anyone else is even close. I don't think anyone else is even in the 30s or even the mid 20s. So he is their passing offense, and even then they don't convert at 50%. I'll have to double check those numbers, but yeah, it's not good. So there is some room for optimism as far as getting the ball. They're turnover prone, right? Zach Wilson's got 8 fumbles. He's got 5 picks. So they turn over the ball a lot. It's just that their defense turns the ball over a lot too. We got to make sure this game plan is going to be critical, man. The game plan is going to be critical because if you don't have the right game plan against a defense like this, it's just nothing's going to work.
They've got a dozen guys on IR. Again, we'll get to the full injury report in a second. But and a lot of them on the O-line. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, right, the big one. A lot of injuries, and those holes they were unable to fill. I mean, the Jets, before Rodgers went down, like this was, a team people expected to contend for Super Bowls with with a MVP quarterback and a top 5 defense. But they're so top heavy. They just could not fill those gaps of all those injuries. They just couldn't do it. And it's finding those holes, right? Maxx Crosby's going to feast. This O-line is bad and injured. Divine Diablo's back. I'm not worried about the passing game. It's like you mentioned, Breece Hall is 5.2 yards per carry. And what are the Raiders worst at? Out of all aspects of football, run defense is their worst thing. That's by far the worst thing that the Raiders have struggled with. The interior defensive line's not great. Linebackers flash at times, but still they're, when Robert Spillane is like your guy, it's kind of like by default. So that's the big thing, man. It's stopping Breece Hall on early downs. Don't let, put Zach Wilson into situations that he just can't flourish in.
We have to execute, man. It has to be execution. If we don't execute our game plan, it's a type of game plan where we're pretty bad against the run, right? Yep. So we have to load the box more, which is going to put pressure on our secondary. It only takes a couple of mistakes in the secondary, and we've seen our secondary make some mistakes. Yep. The touchdown that the Giants had was a mistake. It was a coverage mistake. We left the guy wide open in the back of the end zone. So we can't have that stuff in a. I mean, it wasn't a tight game against the Giants, so it didn't really matter. But against the Jets, it is going to matter. You can't make mistakes. You can't oops. You can't lapse in judgment. If we do that against a guy like, for as crappy as Zach Wilson is, Garrett Wilson is really good. And if he gets behind you, you're not catching him. So. Yeah. If we make a mistake, he's going to make us pay, and we can't have any of those because it's going to be a tight. It's going to be a tight game.
I really like along those exact lines. I think Amik Robertson kind of like encapsulates that because it feels like every single game he has to get like beat deep, and then he comes back and plays lights out. It's so weird. Like it's one of those like he needs to make a mistake and then get pissed off to succeed. And I feel like that's kind of how I think if the defense runs well, something like that's going to happen. like Brees is going to break for like 40, or God forbid Zach Wilson hits like a 30-yarder or something like that, and then everyone's going to wake up. Because we've seen that out of this defense so much, just kind of like fumble something and then bounce back.
Yeah, we can't afford that. We can't afford that. I mean, there is a reason. It wasn't all Aaron Rodgers on why there was optimism for this offense. He has weapons. There's weapons on this offense, and we need to have Amik Robertson come out of the gate with that mentality. If not, it's going to be a rough score, man. It's going to be a rough. Be playing catch up against the Jets because they will run the ball and they will grind you down, and they're going to just sick their defense on you.
Just now developing.
I saw that.
DJ Hayden, former Raider, died in a car accident.
Yeah.
In Houston.
Yeah. Where he's from.
Very sad.
It's a shame.
Bummer. Sorry, Raider Nation. He was a certified member, Raider Nation. RIP. Sorry,
yeah.
DJ. I'm sure the Raiders will do something for him tomorrow. Especially with it being primetime. We didn't get flexed out of primetime, which you'd think that's probably what would have happened, right? Like the Jets got all these primetime games because it was Aaron Rodgers and Hard Knocks, right? Followed them. Still in primetime. I think the Antonio Pierce story. They hate flexing out of primetime because it's
I don't think they're gonna. It's too early in the season to flex. People out. I mean, look, the Jets, as poor as their stats look, they're 4-4.
Mm-hmm.
We're 4-5, so it's not like Thursday night's game. That game was a freaking grease fire.
That was ugly.
And the thing is you knew it was ugly going in. It wasn't like, well, wow, these two, first place teams are just put out a stinker. No, we knew it was going to be a stinker coming in, and they delivered a stinker. So this game, it could be pretty entertaining, man. I mean, it's going to be a hard-hitting game.
Well, there's storylines. There's storylines to it, right? Like the Jets aren't dead, like you said, 4-4. Like playoffs are still a goal. This defense is still lights out. Breece Hall is still one of the best running backs in football. Like, Zach Wilson. So we judge teams by quarterbacks, which is kind of you can pick wins and losses based on quarterback pretty well. Like not too bad. Like if you're just betting quarterbacks, you can make some pretty good picks. The thing is, everything else about the Jets is awesome. Just their quarterback is bottom 40. He's just absolutely atrocious. But everything else is good about this team, and they can still make the playoffs with the AFC East the way that is. The Raiders can still make the playoffs with how things are going with their record. So I think the Antonio Pierce storyline is intriguing nationally, and the Jets will always the Jets are just so intrigued. Aaron Rodgers has just cast such a big shadow that him not playing on a team is a story, and I think intrigues people.
I mean, they're two national brands. I mean, the Jets, they got a huge following. The Raiders, of course, we got a worldwide following.
Yep.
So two of the premier franchises, maybe not recently, but it's an interesting game because you see the dynamic of, I think people are still waiting for Zach Wilson to figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's
so?
It's like I think so.
Jury is still out on Zach Wilson, or I think people have given up.
No. I don't think the jury's out. I think they're waiting for him to figure it out. Kind of like a microwave version of Geno Smith. He was awful.
Yeah,
he was terrible, and he figured it out. So it took him a few years to do that. But I mean, the Jets fans are hoping that Zach Wilson figures it out. I'm not too sure that giving him the ball and forcing him to make plays is then necessarily going to be a disaster against us.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the inconsistency in our secondary. And I'm really concerned about. I have no issues with our linebackers running up and tackling. I have no issues with our defensive line getting pressure on the quarterback. I do have some concern that our secondary can be inconsistent. Zach Wilson's shown the ability to make throws. It's just his decision making is not all that great. We got to capitalize on it. As of recently, we have been doing that. But just remember, guys, before they lost that game against the Chargers, which was, a close-ish game until, late in the game, they had won 3 straight. So it's gonna be a little bit more difficult than a lot of people that I've been hearing are saying.
The good news, well, look, the Jets defense is like, if they just play their base defense, just like, all right, here's our defense, they're still really, really good. The good news is, I don't know how you prepare for the Raiders when you've got an offensive coordinator in only his second game, a rookie quarterback in only his third start, and you've only seen the rookie in his very first game, and then a game where they were up real early and he didn't have to extend himself. I don't know how, you know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot for their defense to kind of scout, right? Like, they're kind of coming in. Like, are they going to is Bill Hardy going to stick to the Josh McDaniels offense? Did what we see last week, is that the new norm? Are we going to be going back to dig routes and the same run plays over and over again? Like, we follow the Raiders more than the Jets defensive coordinators do, and we don't know what the hell we're going to get, right? So, like, that's the really good thing going for this offense, is that it's an open book. Like how do you prepare for something when there's no footage on it?
I just think we go conceptual, or the Jets go conceptual on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Show pressure, confused Favre out the line, so he doesn't know where the pressure is coming from, and just play tight on the outside. You have the players to do it, and force them into quick, tight throws. Make it as difficult as possible on a young quarterback. Maybe not Favre specifically, but just make it more difficult. If you have the players, that's how you'd want to play anyway, yep. Right? Show kind of like the old school, like the zone blitz defense that Pittsburgh made famous. They showed everybody, but you didn't know who was coming. Sometimes they dropped defensive tackles into the flat, right? You didn't know who was going to come, but they played a tight zone behind it. You just don't need to play zone behind it. They can play straight up, press man behind it and still be very effective. So, it's going to take a lot of misdirection. It's going to take, pull something out of your hat, because we need to make sure that we keep we can't play well on our heels. When a defense shows like massive pressure and they drop a bunch of people back, but they drop people back more of a tight man. Mm-hmm. You can't play that against a defense like that and be on your heels. You have to put the defense on their heels. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge for Coach Bo.
Thomas Reynolds, if the offense plays well Sunday against a really good defense plus a win, I will be optimistic for a possible win streak to get a wild card spot. What do you guys think? Well, that's this closes out the soft part of the schedule, right? This is the last part. Like, even this last, in the preseason before the season started, like, okay, this is the soft part of the schedule, and it was even softer than even we can imagine. We didn't imagine Aaron Rodgers getting hurt, the Bears being this bad, the Giants being that, those quarterbacks being out. That wasn't really expected. I mean, if hypothetically, right, this win doesn't say we're on the right track. If we win, it says the wheels haven't completely fallen off. That's what this win would tell me against this type of Jets team. A win's a win, and they are favored. And the Jets defense is legit offensive weapons. But after this, like, here's the schedule, right? After Jets, Dolphins, Chiefs, bye, Vikings, despite their record, are good. Chargers, Chiefs, Colts, Broncos. I mean, this win, we get the momentum and the record gets better and we're feeling good about ourselves. But the true test comes in the next few weeks if we can, like, sneak into the wild card.
I think to Thomas Reynolds' point, I think if we win with our offense looking good, I think it says a tremendous amount. And Thomas, thanks you for subscribing, man. I appreciate it. So just us squeaking by, like winning the way that most people think we're going to win, 14-10, 17-13, something like that, right? It's not going to say a lot.
Yeah.
But us scoring, in the 20s against this defense, yeah, that's going to say a little bit. It's going to even if it's 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals, right? Yeah. It shows that we're able to put sustained drives together, or we're able to play complementary football where we're able to use turnovers, good field position, stuff like that, and turn that into points. So that is going to say a lot.
Last game is the best example of that, right? Like Aiden O'Connell didn't have a crazy game. Josh Jacobs didn't have a crazy game. Davante Adams was held without a touchdown and under 60 yards for the 5th straight game. Yeah. We still put up 30 points. Put up 30 points thanks to timely turnovers, 8 sacks, no mistakes from Aiden O'Connell, Josh Jacobs' best game of the season, a well executed game plan. Like that's great to see. It's great to see a quarterback just put a team on their shoulders and throw for 400 and win you the game. It's great for Josh Jacobs to get 185 yards and just put the game on his shoulders and win. Maxx Crosby just single-handedly game-wrecking. Those are cool, too. And we got players that can take over games. It's even better to see everyone just play their role and crush a decent team.
Yeah, I was more encouraged by the fact that we had 6 scoring drives last week, 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals, and it was 50-50. It wasn't like a touchdown and a ton of field goals. It was, it was half and half. So we showed the ability to score different ways and score a lot. Six scoring drives is nothing to shake a stick at. So I just want to make sure that when we're looking at things, we're looking at the right things. The total amount of points is great, but we also to take a look at, with the rookie quarterback, with 2 practices, right? We were able to put together 6 scoring drives against a pretty decent defense.
All that matters on Sunday is the final score, but all that matters on Monday through Saturday is how you got there, because then you need to replicate it, right? It's like what if what we did on Sunday was that a fluke? Was it one guy just ate his Wheaties, or is it something that we can replicate? And what we did on Sunday is absolutely replicatable. It wasn't like one guy went Hulk mode. It was, we stayed within ourselves. Everyone played their role. Everything was complimentary, especially the offense. Right? We only ran like 4 different run plays, but we ran them decently, play action off the back of it, and caught guys sleeping. That's it, right? We didn't ask for any one person to win us the game.
The complimentary play calling was huge for me. We showed the same action on the offensive line on our play action plays. And it's a little easier to do when you do more of like a zone blocking scheme, right? Because you're kind of scraping down the line of scrimmage. So you're not going to get, it's not a power blocking scheme where this guy loops around and takes the linebacker and he's 5 yards down the field, before they throw the ball and you get penalized, right? So it's a lot easier to show that motion and that movement in the offensive line when you're doing kind of more of a zone blocking scheme, which Josh Jacobs is the best at. So we saw like the jet sweep to Jacoby Myers was off of a run play that they play a lot of times when they have overload to one side. They'll bring in a linebacker to be part of that, they'll bring in a receiver to be part of that outside double team. And so the complementary play calling, kind of like what I've been preaching the entire time, you have to be able to do different things out of the same action. And that's where I think if I were to sit down Josh McDaniels and talk to him about one thing, it's you're so arrogant that you don't have to do anything like that. You feel like you don't have to do that to like tip the percentages in your favor. You're just going to call a run play. Or
like my system is impenetrable. All
exactly.
You have to do
it's like the play calling is so good that I can tell you what I'm going to do and it's going to work anyway. No, dude, it doesn't work that way.
Injury report. There's a lot to report.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. The Raiders, on the Raiders' end, a couple got like Divine Diablo pretty much back, which is good news. He was limited. A bunch of guys limited, but they'll likely play. Nate Hobbs limited. Maxx Crosby limited. They're playing. Jakob still has that concussion. The good news is he did practice, so he should be back. He's questionable. Colton Miller, doubtful. Hasn't practiced all week with that shoulder. He's probably not playing. Marcus Peters limited all week, questionable. And Davante Adams. Do we know what's going on with him?
No, I think it's just keeping him fresh.
Okay. I haven't heard that's what I'm thinking. I just haven't seen any reports on it.
Yeah, I think it's just keeping him fresh.
And on the other end, the Jets injury report, not quite that brutal. O lineman Billy Turner out, Chess Surratt, linebacker out, and another lineman, Dwayne Brown, out. But that's just the injury report, right? Like that doesn't count the dozen dudes on IR. Like they were beaten. I don't know if it's their field. They got like Dr. Kevorkian as their trainer, but they're one of the most injured teams in football.
Yeah, a couple of guys in the offensive line are on IR. Their quarterback, a couple of defensive line guys. So it just shows you how deep this team is. They can be missing so many pieces and still be winning games.
Yeah.
They don't win games by exploding offensively. It's just I wouldn't expect to get blown out. If we do get blown out, then there's going to be some serious questions. But what I look at when I see their games is they're always tight, man. They're always in it, unless that's why it's so important to capitalize on their mistakes. You have to force them, meaning Zach Wilson, because I'm not going to bank on ripping the ball out of Breece Hall's hands. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not going to bank on that. I'm not going to bank on blocking punts and kicks. I'm going to bank on making Zach Wilson turn the ball over. And if we can, when we get short fields, we got to score touchdowns, man. We can't. It's going to be hard enough for us to score moving the ball the length of the field to touchdown. When we get a short field, they got to be touchdowns. Those are our time.
The Jets are very well coached. Robert Saleh is a top tier NFL head coach, and he's got to be. If he had hair, he'd be pulling it out with this team when it's just like so many pieces are there, but your quarterback goes down, dozen dudes on IR. I mean, you can tell he dyes his beard because that thing is gray. Like it is that bright, that dark brown. You're like, all right, that's just for men because that shit is gray under there for sure. With how much like the stress he's going through with this squad.
It's tough, man. It's tough when you enter a season, you have so many high hopes, and you look at the team and you know what you're looking for, and you see it. You see what you're looking for everywhere. Offense, maybe not everywhere. The offensive line has always been a little bit of an issue. But you have the weapons, you have the quarterback, you have the entire defense. Greg Zuerlein is 18 for 19 field goals. He's perfect extra points.
Yep. So
it's like you have a good kicking game. It just so happens that their one deficiency, their offensive line, ended up tanking their season, from what was the expectation so far. And that's the pressure on Aaron Rodgers, fourth play of the season. He's running for his life. Every single other play, he passed the ball and snapped his Achilles. So we got to make sure that we do something similar as far as putting pressure on Zach Wilson. We have to pressure him. We can't leave it up to anyone else. We have to rely on our strength, which is Maxx Crosby.
This is a good opportunity for Antonio Pierce to flex his head coaching muscles. When you got a defense that good and another head coach in Robert Saleh, who's again, like I think a premier head coach in football, because Antonio Pierce didn't really have to be super head coach-y in game against the Giants. We got ahead early and everyone just kind of play your roles, right? His big contribution was during the week and getting people up, right? Being the motivator, which certainly seems like that's what he's capable of. I think on Sunday night, we'll see him put to the fire as a coach, game time decision, managing timeouts, things like that, especially against Robert Saleh. This is going to be his. I think we're gonna find out a lot about Antonio Pierce when he's in the big chair.
He's going to be also that, and also pivoting strategy wise. He's going to have to help identify that. You can't just sit back as a head coach and allow your coordinators to do everything. Yeah. You have to be involved in it as well.
It's great getting feedback from your team, from your players, from your coaches, like game plan. That's all awesome. But during the game, they're decision makers where you're the dictator. It's like, right, you're grabbing this game by the throat and you're saying, we're doing this. Like, you have to do that as head coach in game, no matter how much of a collaborator you want to be.
Yeah, it's going to show a lot of his in-game decision making, like you said, a lot of his how he let's show a lot about Antonio Pierce as a strategist.
Yeah,
and his grasp on offensive philosophy and stuff like that.
Anything else?
It's pretty straightforward, man. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
this game plan is pretty straightforward. You know, we have to have you know, a decent attack against the run. We have to be able to keep them from pinning their ears back, and we have to, you know, make them pay when it's there through the air. Farva, we got to keep Farva upright. We got to keep him from getting happy feet. We got to keep him from looking at the rush and keep him looking downfield. If we can do that, I don't have any confidence in the Jets' offense to put up a ton of points.
I'm basically looking at three things. I'm looking at Maxx Crosby, my dick in my hands, erect as shit, because he's going to be feasting. He had 3 sacks last week. He's going to eat on Sunday night. Can't wait to see that. Aiden O'Connell handling pressure. How's he going to deal with that? Mm-hmm. And can we continue playing complementary offensive football? Not one guy always winning or carrying, just everything playing off the other. No one has to play outside themselves because the game plan is just fluid. No one's stats blow up. We want that, right? We want Davante to go for 200 yards and Jacobs for 185 and Aiden for 400. That'd be great. But can we do what we did against the Giants? Just everyone's complimenting each other. Put up 30, even though not one. I don't think one guy had like over 20 points in fantasy, but we still put 30 points up. You know what I mean? It was that kind of complimentary football game. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, the three things is control the running game, offensively and defensively. Do we need to run the ball 5 yards a carry? No, but we can't allow 5 yards a carry either. Mm-hmm. Is pressure on the quarterback? We have to be able to pressure Zach Wilson, and we have to be able to keep Farva's feet clean and keep him, you know, being able to throw the ball down the field. And what was the third one? Something else.
Great shots of Mark Davis's girlfriend in the box, in the owner's box.
Yes.
More of those. Always looking for that. All right, we'll be back Sunday night, immediately following Jets versus Raiders. Jets
turnovers. Can't turn the ball over, and we need to be able to make sure that we turn the ball over from.
Jets -1 on the Raiders. Over under 36.5. I think it's gonna be right there. Some, you know, it'd probably be under, but I think it'll be pretty close. Antonio Pierce's second game as head coach. Farva's third game as starting quarterback. Bo Hardege's second game as offensive coordinator. All good things to follow and keep an eye on. We'll see you guys Sunday night. Until then, knock on wood if you're with me. Hey.